Okay guys, this is the demonstration to do our color chart. You will see a finished example of this. I'll have this loaded up for our lesson also. This is where we're going, but we have to get through a little bit of stuff to begin with. We're doing a color chart because these little squares, they're pretty easy to paint. We don't have to worry about lights and darks. We're just mixing up little recipes of color. And everything that you need as far as your directions is just right here, okay? I'm going to put this aside. And as far as our layout, how this is going to work, you'll notice I have my palette right here. Today I'm using my paper palette. I don't have to take these pages out of the book. I just flip this around and lay it down, and that works out pretty well. Of course, make sure that you put your name on everything so that way it doesn't get lost. I've got my set of directions over here. For my setup, I've got them over here on my right side, and my canvas is over here on my left. Most of my attention is going to be right here once we get started painting, but initially I need to draw out this grid. And the directions for how to do this are just right here at the bottom of the page. And I've got it started, and I'm going to, just in case it's been a while since you've used a ruler. So this particular piece of canvas that I've got is 12 inches wide. So it means that I'm going to have to kind of fudge a little bit and have everything right here along the edges. What I've done is I've measured up here from the edge of my canvas 1 inch. I put a couple of dots, and then I made my starting line. I've also, from this line right here, I've laid my ruler out with 12 inches, and I've marked off every 2 inches. It may be a little hard to see this. Let's see if I can get this maybe closer. You can see possibly those lines. I hope so. It's kind of hard for me to see on the camera. But I've got these little light dots, and so that helps me do all of the lines in this direction. Now I'm going to do the same thing here on this side, making sure, because we've got a little bit of about a 32nd of an inch there to begin my ruler. And I've just put these very, very light dots, and then that's 12. And then flipping it around, my last line is right here, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. 2 inches, 4, 6, 8. Okay. And then once I've got those, I've got dots here and dots here, and then I'm just going to connect the dots. Okay. Now I want to do this with a really light hand, so I'm holding my pencil rather loosely, and I'm just letting it kind of ride. Okay, so it makes a really light mark. You don't want anything darker than that. Actually, I don't like that line. I should have done it a lot lighter. So I can just barely see it. Looks like I lost it there. Okay, I'll have to do it again. Just a little bit more. Had some trouble with my camera this morning, so my hands are shaking. I'm a little nervous. You just take your time. Sometimes I feel like when I'm doing these demonstrations, I feel like Bob Ross. Okay, here's the last one. And this is something that you can certainly do. I lost my line in between there, so I'm going to remark that line. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with this. Okay, so another thing that you can do, when you see your set of directions, up here at the top, you'll see that there's a list of names, and I think I can do that. So I can list up here, just keeping track. So here is my hue, here is my tint, here is my shade, my tone, shade, and tone. Okay, so that is what you need for that. What we're going to do with this, I'm going to pull this out, again, my finished example, and we're going to take a look at this. I also had some room on this canvas. It was a little bit bigger than the one I'm using for my demo, and I was able to label the colors, going down one side. So what you'll notice in this is, these colors, we'll just take, let's take red right here, so you can see the red. So this first color, when you look at your recipe, it's going to give you exactly the proportions of color that you need to make that red, okay? And these colors that you see here, they're really bright. They're like Lego colors, right? Sports team colors. And then the one to one side of it, on our directions, it says that it's empty. But if you go to the top of that column, it says mix the hue with white to make the color one step lighter. So over here is our hue red. And so if we mix it with white to make a step lighter, you can see that it's just kind of it's a little paler. It's kind of pink, okay? And then the next one over, that is our shade column. And when we look at this, we can see that it's darker. So this color has been mixed with black to make a color that's one step darker. And then the next column is a tone. And this color has both our original hue color, the red, as well as black and white. And you can see that it's a duller color. It's kind of toned down. It's not as dark as this, but you can see that there's just something kind of, almost kind of like chalky, kind of milky about it. Now these next two, they are a shade and a tone also, but for this shade, it looks very similar to this, but for this one, instead of using black to make this shade, we've used the complement. And many of you guys are familiar with complementary colors. You cover it in other classes when you were in high school. But if you're not, all you have to do is take a look at the directions. And for this shade, for the complementary shades, you'll see there's a little asterisk, and it'll tell you, what the color is that you need to use for the complement. So this says little asterisk green, and so that means that you'll use the green that's down here on your directions, that particular recipe to do that. So we've got red mixed with green to make that complementary shade, and then we have the tone that's mixed with the complement and white, and so you can see how that works. So just to make sure that we've got everything going. Now I've got my canvas all sketched out, and I've got my palette. I've got my palette knife. Don't need my pencil anymore. I've got all my paints up here. I've got some brushes, and the brushes I've chosen are kind of medium size, and I really like these square-ended brushes. So, and I've got a bunch of them. So, and if you don't have something like that, this is a filbert, and it works out pretty well too. Okay, and so I've got a bunch of my brushes. Got a nice little, nasty rag here, and a couple of jars of water. So that'll get us started.